Welcome to the Wisconsin Government Accountability Board's Eye on Lobbying webinar training series. In this webinar, we will explain how to complete a Statement of Lobbying Activities and Expenditures, known as the SLAE, for each 6-month period. We will cover each of these 5 steps in the SLAE process. My name is Brian Bell, Elections and Ethics Specialist, and with me today is Lobbying Specialist Molly Nagapala and the Ethics and Accountability Division Administrator, Jonathan Becker. Please note that we have muted your phones and you should only hear us talking. If you have a question, though, at any time during this presentation, please type them into the question box through the GoToWebinar application. We will be pausing periodically to review and answer questions, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. If we don't have time to answer all questions, either during the webinar or in a Q&A document, please email us. This webinar is also being recorded, and we will post the video as well as a document with question and answers from the presentation on the GAB website within a few days. Now I'll turn things over to Molly, who will walk us through SLAE reporting.
Thanks, Brian. First, let's talk about what we mean by SLAE reporting. Statements of lobbying activities and expenditures, or SLAEs, must be completed by all lobbying principals. Lobbyists and principals complete all required reports through the Wisconsin Government Accountability Board's Eye on Lobbying website. There are 4 6-month reporting periods per legislative session, odd and even years. January 1 through June 30th, which is due by July 31st. July 1 through December 31st, which is due by January 31st. These reports are required if the principal is registered for at least 1 day in the reporting period. There are 5 steps to completing your SLAE, and we will go through each of these steps in detail. The 5 steps are lobbyist time reports, non-lobbyist time reports, time and expenditure summary, allocation of lobbying effort, and verification of totals and certification. Let's pause for a minute and see if we have any questions before we go into more detail about each step in the SLAE.
Nope, no questions so far.
All right, we'll keep going. The first step in completing your SLAE is the completion of all lobbyist time reports. Each lobbyist authorized by the principal during a reporting period must complete their time report online, indicating the hours spent communicating and indicating the hours spent on other lobbying activities for each day in the reporting period. These time reports will be used to automatically transfer information into the organization's SLAE report. Remember not to certify your lobbyist time report until all time has been entered for that reporting period. For additional information on completing lobbyist time reports, please refer to the separate webinar on that topic. The second step is entering non-lobbyist time. Enter time for all non-lobbyist employees, non-clerical, who spent 10 or more hours during the reporting period on lobbying-related issues. Enter the total time for all non-lobbyist employees on the same report. Record time spent on lobbying-related activities by non-clerical employees other than lobbyists who act under your organization's supervision or direction. Do not record the time of your lobbyists. That time has already been reported in each lobbyist's time report. Do not record time of clerical employees, unpaid officers, directors, volunteers, or of anyone who devoted 10 or fewer hours to lobbying-related activities. This time report must accurately reflect a daily accounting of time your organization spends on lobbying-related activities. There are a number of ways your organization can have individuals account for time spent on lobbying-related activities. Use any reasonable method that helps you accurately record this time. All right, step 3, enter the dollars paid to or obligations incurred by each of the organization's lobbyists. Refer to your records to determine lobbying-related expenses for salaries and payments to lobbyists and non-lobbyist employees, reimbursements to lobbyists and non-lobbyist employees, and any other lobbying-related expenses. Please remember that you need only report salary and other payments related to lobbying. Let's just pause quick and see if we have any questions or make sure the audio is working okay at the moment.
Looks like audio's doing okay now, and yeah, we're good. Right. No other questions so far, though.
All right. Step 4, assign percentages of effort to matters to which your organization devoted lobbying-related time. Report under minor efforts the time spent on matters that accounted for less than 10% of the total lobbying effort if you did not itemize that time separately. Report time spent on other matters, which includes time spent on gubernatorial nominations and matters on which the organization made no lobbying communication. Verify that the values you entered are accurate. Correct any omissions or errors by clicking on the back button located at the bottom left of your screen. By default, fringe benefits are calculated as 30% of salary. Overhead is calculated as 30% of salary plus fringe benefits. If you wish to manually calculate fringe benefits and overhead, you can click the Calculate Fringe and Overhead button, although this step is optional. Certify the report and submit it to the Government Accountability Board. Print the complete statement. You must retain a copy for 3 years from the statement's due date. Do not certify your report until you have entered all time, expenditures, and efforts for the reporting period. Let's pause again for a minute and see if we have any additional questions before we conclude the webinar.
We did have a question regarding should they include mileage reimbursement in their report?
Yes, they should include that as part of the reimbursement.
So another question. Does lobbying include time monitoring legislation on which the principal has not taken a position?
Yes, it does. There would be a lobbying activity. It would be reported in the other category.
Yeah. So it's not communicating directly, trying to influence lobbying as lobbying activities would be your other time. Oh, yeah. Can you go back up a slide, please? So someone wanted to go back to this slide.
And just remember that this will be generated, this report, this page you're looking at now will automatically be generated by the system. You won't have to be putting any numbers on this page. They will already be there for you.
So the question is, do you count time spent and expenses for organizational committee meetings that may discuss legislation as lobbying time?
Yes, you should report that amount of time spent at that meeting discussing the legislative agenda or strategy of the organization.
That would go under Other.
So remember, you do not have to record the time of unpaid directors or unpaid volunteers.
All right, another question. If lobbying is not the primary purpose of a person's job, do we still report the full salary?
No, only that's one of the reasons you need to keep track of the time that that person devotes to lobbying, and you'd only report that portion of their salary related to lobbying. So if they're paid by the hour, for example, you'd know how many hours to report. If they're paid a salary, you'd know what percentage of their time they spent on lobbying and report that same percentage of their salary. And that would be based on, if it's a full-time job, 2,080 hours. If they work on some other basis, you would simply calculate the percentage of their time spent lobbying versus other activities and report that same percentage of salary.
Thank you for watching this GAB ION Lobbying webinar training. We do encourage you to utilize other training materials available on the website, including manuals, guidelines, and other webinar videos as they become available. Please contact us if you have any questions regarding the information presented in this webinar or anything else related to lobbying in Wisconsin and using the ION Lobbying website.
Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.